changing diet and climate. Would you like to just talk a little bit about how you see all that interconnected? And
okay, well, yeah, we've been talking a little bit about food security and a lot about local, and a lot about like the SNAP program and people who may be food insecure, and that's where GMOs kind of affect all of us in terms of both our health, but also in the security of any of our foods. Because as Lee mentioned, you get these giant monocultures across the country or across the world where we're getting crops that are all one variety, and they're resistant, and probably everyone here knows that GMOs, they're not putting, I mean, they sometimes talk about putting like a fish gene into a strawberry or something, but essentially, for the most part, what they're doing is they're putting Roundup resistance into our foods. That is what the modification is. That is what the genetic, and it's systemic, it's through every cell, and of course it can be, there have been a lot of lawsuits about this, it can be interbred with other crops, and that gene persists in the environment and will get into your neighbor's organic corn or your organic corn when your neighbor has 50,000 acres of genetically modified corn. And having all of those acres of this one variety of anything makes it extremely vulnerable to anything else. It may be able to tolerate the Roundup, which is kind of gross when you think about it, because that means that that gene is in us and what's happening there. So there's a sense of food insecurity when it comes to using GMOs that people really have to think about. And then we also, they're doing more and more studies. For the longest time they said, look, these don't affect you at all. Well, they have found out that's not really true. There are human health problems. It affects people's kidneys. It affects the way your bodies break things down. And there are studies beginning to be done out there about health and about the issues with GMOs. The other part of that is that if you are buying things in the grocery store, 95%, more than 95% of anything that has soy in it, I have some things here, 86% of corn, and I think that's old. I think that it's actually a higher level of that. And they say 70% of processed foods. I think, again, that's old. I think that it's higher than that now. I think nearly all of your processed foods, when you consider that soy, corn, and anything with meat in it that eats alfalfa is all genetically modified. And so nearly everything we eat, sugar cane has become genetically modified. If you buy food out in the world, and you're not buying it locally, and you're not buying it, and I just want to make this comment too, when you buy it locally, it is important to ask your farmer, because local doesn't necessarily mean organic. So make sure when you talk to your farmer that you emphasize that is what you're interested in, because that is the food that is going to not only be better for your health, but better for our watersheds, better for our soil and our air. So yeah, that's